Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about reasons that the medical billing and coding exams are failed, the poll results. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so I put out a poll on my YouTube community tab, and I also put out this same poll on my LinkedIn page. So I have 4 reasons that I gave folks for why did they fail this test, and I wanted them to vote on this because I want to get sort of a perspective from the audience of what do they think the problem is. I get emails all the time from folks that are looking for guidance that says, Blue, I have taken this test 2 or 3 times and I keep failing. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, I don't know what you're doing wrong either because I don't know you personally. So because of this, it makes it kind of hard. I can always tell you guys to study, but if you don't kind of see it from other people's perspective and see that it's other people that are going through the same thing and why are they failing, then it makes it a little bit more easier for people to understand when I say what I say and why I say these things. So the 4 choices that I gave were: my program was too fast, I did too many crash study sessions, I studied for less than 20 hours per week, and I was too nervous. Okay, so I'm going to start with the number 4 reason that people, this one got the lowest amount of votes. I got quite a few votes on YouTube. I did not get a whole lot of votes on LinkedIn, which is always the case. LinkedIn people just don't respond to to polls, but whatever. But I will go ahead and read from both, right? So the one that was lowest on both, and they were both spot on, like with the votes as far as like the percentage wise. So they all fit into these 4, right? So the number 4 reason, I did too many crash study sessions. On YouTube, 14% of the people who were polled said that, and 6% said that on LinkedIn. That's the number 4 reason. The number 3 reason is my program was too fast, okay? And that is 13% on LinkedIn, and 19% said that on YouTube. So we have 2 choices left. And I'm going to tell you guys to pause the video right now. So we have these 2 choices left, right? I studied for less than 20 hours per week, or I was too nervous. You tell me in the comments, which one do you think was the number 1 reason that people failed their exam? Leave it in the comments below. Stop the video so you can see if you were right. So, all right, now you're back. Hopefully you put it on pause and you voted in the comments. But 25% on YouTube said that they were too nervous. On LinkedIn, 38% said that they were too nervous. So that would leave the number 1 reason for failing the medical billing and coding exam is I studied for less than 20 hours per week. 44% on LinkedIn said that that was the case. 28% on YouTube said that that was the case, that they studied for less than 20 hours per week, which didn't surprise me, but sort of surprised me because I really thought that people were going to say it was because their program was too short. I get that a lot. Blue, I went through a fast-paced medical coding program. Okay. So what do these results tell us? These results are telling us loud and clear this very thing, that the thing that we can control about failing this exam is what we do. That's exactly what this poll said. Not blaming the school, not blaming these crash study sessions, but actually the fact that the individual did not study for at least 20 hours per week. And that's what we can control, right? So we look at things like, why do I keep failing? And when you think about the amount of time that you're investing into learning medical coding and practicing for the test and that kind of thing. So why do we fail? Not studying enough. I get emails all the time for people and I ask them, they go, Blue, I failed this exam 2 or 3 times. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know what you're doing wrong either. But how much time are you spending studying? And they tell me 5 hours or 7 hours. There is your problem. It's going to take more than 5 or 7 hours. And this does not require you to sit for long hours at a time. People have told me, well, Blue, I crammed and I studied for 8 hours and I feel exhausted. That's your fault. That's your fault, guys. Because I always tell you that you have to go for no more than 1 hour at a time. As adults, we have different things going on than we did when we were kids, right? When we were kids in high school and that kind of thing, we could study for long stretches of time and it was no big deal because that's your job, is to be a student and be a kid, and that's the thing. So you have all the time in the world. You don't have all these grown-up adult problems. But now as adults, we've got families, we've got kids, we've got other things that we have to do that we're obligated to, the church or whatever you are obligated to. So because you have these obligations, sometimes people will use that as, well, I don't have time. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Believe it or not, yes, you do. Especially when you fix your schedule where you're going to fit those pockets of time in. You're not just going to rely on only reading, but you are also going to mix it up and listen to YouTube channels about medical terminology and anatomy and HIPAA, all right? And you can mix it up by doing flashcards. You know, you can buy flashcards. I always recommend to write out your flashcards, things that you don't recall as easily, things that you know you need to focus on. You don't have to do thousands of flashcards, but just kind of, you know, make it where it's like the stuff that you really need to know. And when you're looking at the domains of your exam, right? And all of the domains of all of the exams are on the websites. The HIMA website, ahima.org or aapc.com. So you can go there and you can look at all the domains of the exam that you're going to be taking, because all you need to take is one exam. Okay, guys? I know that a lot of recruiters try to push that. Oh, no, you need to take multiple exams so that way you can be prepared for anything that the employer wants. Well, if the employer is smart enough, and which you hope they are, they're going to know and understand what these credentials are for and what they are trained for. So with that in mind, all you need is one. Okay, that's all you need. Don't be taken into doing all these other additional credentials that you don't even need, because no one is asking for them. If people were asking for them, then yeah, I would recommend them. But I'd never recommend anything but those four. When it comes to medical coding, the CCS, CCA, CCSP, or the CPC, these are the only four. Do not ask me about any other so-called medical coding association. Do not ask me, because AHIMA and AAPC are the only ones that I will always recommend. They are the only ones that I have always recommended on my channel. All right. So when it comes to that, those are your ones. If you're looking to get into leadership, of course, RHIT or RHIA. But that's a separate, complete story. We need to talk about investing that time into studying. Now, like I said, if you are driving to work, you can listen for 30 minutes. You can do flashcards at lunchtime for another 30 minutes. And then on your drive home, you can do more listening, right? Because whether it's listening to the guidelines or listening to a YouTube channel about anatomy or medical terminology or any of those things, that's fitting that time in. And when you get home from work, you can spend another hour once the kids have gone to bed or once all of your chores is done. You know, you can do your workbook for an hour, take a break, and then come back to it for another half hour. That's 3 hours you already put in one day. 3 hours. That's it. 3 hours in one day. Now you do that consecutively for 5 days. Now you have 15 hours that you've invested into learning medical billing and coding. 15 hours. Then you get to the weekend. Now you have 2 days, so you can either break that 5 hours up over those 2 days, or you can give yourself, which is what I recommend, giving yourself a whole day off so that you don't burn out. And you've got that 5 hours that you can squirrel in throughout the day. And it's not that hard, guys. It's not that hard. Because when you get out into the real world, this is also going to be a part of your daily life. Because the studying does not stop as soon as you get the medical coding certification. It will continue for the rest of your career. I am a 13 plus year veteran already. And I'm going to tell you, I still study to this day. Still. Even with everything that I've got going on, I still make the time to study. And before you tell me, well, Blue, I have a life outside of this. We all have lives outside of this. But I will tell you this, when it comes to priorities, for me, my YouTube channel is a priority. Why is it a priority to me? Because I see that there's going to be brand new medical coders out there. This is the next generation of medical coders that are coming up. And I would hope that as a veteran medical coder, that I can give you a little bit of wisdom, which is to study, 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 study. And how do you do it? And I'm explaining all the way how to do it. Oh, and talk with your providers and get them on board to get education. And this is how you do it. So I'm hoping to share a lot of my knowledge here. And I hope that you all take my knowledge and use it as your own to further your careers. That's what I hope for. Okay, so before you come at me with, oh, I have a life outside of this, then my channel's probably not for you. Okay, I'm not saying that you have to do this 24/7, but when you are here and you are listening to my shows, I'm hoping that you'll take this information and use it to help you grow. That's all I'm hoping for. That's all I'm hoping for. All right. So with that said, make the time to study, because if you do not make the time to study, you will keep repeating the same thing over and over again. And it's going to be very expensive after a while. And after a while, guess what happens? If you keep doing the same thing, you're getting the same result, you're going to end up giving up, right? And when you end up giving up, how many thousands of dollars have you thrown away because you couldn't change how you were studying so that you can be successful? Taking the time to listen to a complete stranger who is out here trying to help you, is not asking you for a single thing, but is just asking you to just pay attention and to do things a little bit differently than you have been. And try not to cram and try not to do all these things that are going to set you up to fail. Now, the other reason was I was too nervous. I'm going to be doing a show this week about imposter syndrome. Okay, so that's something that I hope y'all watch that this week. But let's address that on this video as well. Being too nervous. I'll tell you that the more time you spend with these books and the more time you spend with these exercises, and the workbooks that I recommend are in the description box below. I always get this question, Blue, what books do you recommend? Where's the books at? They're always in the description box below, and the title is there. So that way you can see for yourself. You do not have to click on the affiliate link, all right? You do not have to do that at all. It's there. The title is there. You can go wherever you go and find books, and you can get those workbooks that I recommend. And yes, I do recommend the workbooks that are a little older, because why do you have to spend money on brand new books that are asking you exactly the same questions? The only difference is, yeah, they do have the updated codes, but all of the codes have not been updated. Not all of the codes, all right? So if you are using a 2022 ICD-10-CM book and you're using a workbook from 2020 or 2019, and you see that code that they have on the answer key is not in your book, obviously that code has been updated. So then you can look for its equivalent, and that is totally fine, because I'm trying to save y'all some money, all right? Because that's what I do. I don't find it necessary to spend the highest amounts trying to get this when you can get it for the same thing. Just a little few dollars cheaper. So guys, take the time to do those things. Take the time to get that practice in. Don't go for more than 1 hour at a time. Because like I said, people have written me and said, well, Blue, I have a headache. You earned that headache. I studied for 8 hours and I'm so tired because you studied for 8 hours. That's the wrong way to study. We can't study the same way we did when we were children. Guys, we can't do it. And again, if you want to get things to be in your adult head, you have to repeat them, because the key to adult education is repetition. A doctor told me that. Trust me. Yeah, they know, because they're constantly having to repeat things to themselves too. And you know, when you see those anatomy books, those anatomy posters at the doctor's office, do you think that those anatomy posters are for you? No. It's for the doctor to constantly keep that stimulus up, which is another thing that I will recommend, because when we were children, the teacher put all the letters and all the numbers on the border of the room, right? So that you saw them every single day. right? And if you if you went to school before where they did the cursive, right? And so that's what they had up there. So you can learn to do cursive writing as well. You know, it makes me sad when I hear young people don't know how to read cursive or don't know how to write in cursive. That hurts my heart, because it's very important, I think, to do that. It has a lot to do with the hand-eye coordination and all that, your brain and everything else. So I'm just saying. But in the meantime, if you're trying to learn this, take the time to hang up anatomy posters or things that are going to jog your memory, right? About anything, pharma, any of those things. So that way you can constantly have that stimulus. You can change things up. And for those of you that are asking me, Blue, what do I do with the old books? Well, you know, for your old ICD-10 CM books, all of them, right? Or at least Optum, at least I know Optum. It has anatomy plates in it. You can take those anatomy plates out. Why? Because we're not discovering any new body parts. Okay? Anatomy is going to be anatomy. We've already discovered everything. So take those anatomy plates out, and anything else that you can take out of that book. The guidelines, of course, you can leave in there because the guidelines get updated every year. You can find the latest and greatest on cms.gov, and that way you can download those from there. They're brand new. But if you're using the older ICD-10 CM book and you say, well, what do I do with this? How do I throw it out? Get for what you can get out of it, and then, you know, recycle it, obviously, because we don't want these landfills to be filled with these books when you can easily recycle them. Okay, guys, there's plenty of places that you can find in your area to recycle. Don't ask me, guys. Don't ask me where. You can always Google where can I recycle books, all right? But take those anatomy plates out of there and hang them up where you can see them, because that's a resource that you're just going to throw away. No. Or if you know somebody that wants to get into medical billing and coding and they're not quite sure, you know, you can always hand off those books to them as well. So that's just another thing that you can do with your books if you are just wanting to get rid of them. But I would recommend getting those anatomy plates out of there, so that way you can have them hanging up and you can see them on a daily basis. Because, guys, we have to know anatomy. We have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. I say this a lot. And you know how many hours doctors put in of study? And we have to be able to read what they say. We have to be able to understand and comprehend this documentation. Now, don't let me scare you, because a lot of people say, well, Blue, that scares me. This is the field that you're getting into, guys. This is the field that you are getting into. And it takes study. I'm not going to sit here and hold your hand and tell you that it's going to be okay, it's for everybody, because it's not. There's people who don't know that this is what this is. And when they see these tests and they get overwhelmed and they let their nerves get the better of them, if you've been studying, your nerves will not get the better of you. This is why they were neck and neck on this poll. Because I was too nervous and I studied for less than 20 hours a week, because you're not preparing yourself enough in order so that you can walk in confidently, right? So that you can be prepared and know that you're prepared. So that goes hand in hand, guys. That nervousness and lack of study is going to go hand in hand. But you know what happens when you do study, you do make those 20 hours a week? Guess what? That nervousness is going to be really low on that scale, because you have already done enough to prepare yourself. And yeah, you may still be a little nervous, but when you start seeing that stuff on the test, it's going to be familiar to you because you've had so much time in it. You have been working with your books. You have been taking the time to go through them, right? And that's another thing I always say. Don't tab, write, or highlight in your books. And I don't want to hear anybody fussing at me for that. I say do not write, tab, or highlight in your books, because if you are going through your books like you're supposed to, those tabs are going to get in your way. All that writing that you think is so helpful for you, you are not going to have time to look at that during your exam. Because remember, it's all about speed. These exams, they're all timed, right? And with AHEMA exams, the CCS, CCA, CCSP, they don't tell you exactly how many questions you're going to have. They just tell you that you have a range of questions and that this is the time that you have. And it's roughly 2 minutes per question, give or take 2 minutes per question. So that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things when you think about it, because they're separated into two parts, multiple choice and then your case studies. So when you think about that, you have to get through at a pretty quick pace. The only way you're going to be able to do that is if you've been studying with these books, taking the time to go through all of those and look at the questions that you're being asked, as far as like with looking up diagnoses in particular or procedures in particular. And when you get used to that, when you understand those things, reading those op notes is going to be a lot quicker for you. Now, another video that I'm going to do for another poll that I did, which was about reading the ICD-10-CM coding guidelines. Now, I'm not going to talk about that show just yet, but I will say this. When you have been practicing with the ICD-10-CM coding guidelines, the benefits of it is, number one, you're going to understand the guidelines. Number two, you're going to be able to get faster at reading a lot of information all at one time. This is why I tell you guys to do that. But a lot of people still insist, Blue, I don't want to do that. I want to know about the op notes. I don't want to read the op notes. Okay. But if you're reading big op notes and you don't understand the coding rules, how are you going to know what to pick up? How are you going to understand what to sequence and where to sequence it if you don't understand the coding guidelines? The slow way is the fast way. There's another YouTuber that I watch, Rick from Think Like a Horse, and he says that very thing. And I love Rick. I love how he thinks because he says, he's another Texan too, but he says the slow way is the fast way. When you learn things slow, you're going to be fast. But when you try to learn things fast, you're going to go slow because you're going to be so lost and confused and I don't know and this just so much information and guidelines, then op notes. Guidelines, then op notes. That's the way that it should go. When you start learning how to do that, when you start learning how to look up diagnoses and try to find them in the book, when you learn how to find procedures in the book, it's going to be a lot easier for you to spot, rather than trying to jump into the deep end of the pool and trying to look immediately at op notes. Now, I'm going to close this out with this. I do have my Patreon channel if you're interested. And Patreon is where I do all my exercises, where I have crossword puzzles for medical terminology and anatomy. I do word finds as well to kind of mix it up because people like word finds better than crossword puzzles. Either way, they're going to help you with your terminology. There's also the quizzes that I put on there, and it's for diagnosis coding, procedure coding, ICD-10-CM, ICD-10-PCS, and CPT. All right, and I do have some HCPCS picks on there as well. So if you're interested in that, the minimum pledge right now is $10 per month. If you are planning on joining, I always recommend to join after the 1st because it doesn't matter when you sign up during the month, it will charge you again on the 1st, and that's just Patreon's rules. Okay, so if you're interested in that. That is available. That link for my Patreon is in the description box below. That's something that is out there for you. And again, those workbooks are a good price. You can find those workbooks that I have in the description box below. You can find them for cheap at abebooks.com. abebooks.com is a really good place I've found that has really cheap books as well. You can always go to Amazon, but again, I always look for the cheapest place to find books, and that's one of the cheapest places, of course, and eBay. Okay, so there's a lot of resources out there. Get resourceful, guys. Take the time. Let this be a lesson to all of you. The more you study, the less nervous you're going to be. All right, you're going to be prepared. And don't give up. If this is truly what you want to do, get back in there and study. Get back in the fight and do not stop fighting until you get to what you want, right? Because that's the only way that you're going to be able to succeed in life. You know, to be successful takes discipline. And for the people that want things in life and they want to experience wonderful things like traveling and doing all sorts of things, whatever they want to do, it takes discipline and doing what you love and having that joy of not feeling like you're working anymore like I do. I don't feel like I'm working anymore, and I haven't worked since 2014 when I had my aha moment. I finally figured it out. You know, so I hope it's my wish that all of you get that too. But again, you have to get disciplined. And this is showing it loud and clear. So study 20 hours a week if you're out there getting ready, prepared for your exam. And even if you failed it by a couple of points, you need to give yourself at least 3 months again in order to reset and take the time to really get in there and study. So that way, when you take it at the end of those 3 months, you'll be prepared. And it's not like you're trying to be, oh, it's going to be in 30 days. Guys, you're setting yourself up to fail again. Okay, so take the time, get yourself prepared. 3 months, if you fail that exam, take 3 months before you even think about taking it again. That's my advice anyway. If this video helped you, I hope that you will like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.